Good afternoon, folks. Happy Easter. I hope that everybody is having a good Easter out day. This is Brian Miller for Congress. Follow us on Facebook. You know, there's going to be about 2 months left till the end of the primary, June 2nd. So I'm really going to try to be doing some live streaming every day. I am hopefully going to be watching everything and set up on Facebook to take comments and things like that. I'm still working through the kinks. But I like a lot of us today. We saw the Easter tweet from Donald Trump. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to throw it up there for you. I really wanted to talk about this. It's really completely appalling. If you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, it was this right here. And I really want to talk about this because Trump has been doing this for a while now, where he's been threatening military, civilian infrastructure inside Iran. And these are war crimes, straight and simple. I mean, the intent expressed in this tweet is a war crime. And, I remember when this whole Iran war started out, we've seen shifting rationales the whole time, right? We've seen shifting rationales. But if you remember correctly, when Trump started this out, he said that he really wanted to help the people of Iran. Do you remember, for instance, when there were these protests going on, and Trump said, if you harm any of those protesters, I'll kill you. That's his threat to the mullahs. And now he is literally waging war on the Iranian people. He's destroying bridges. He's targeting their water. He's targeting their electricity. It's barbaric. And as a person who's running for Congress, I've always been a little reticent to get on the impeachment bandwagon, as much as I don't like Donald Trump, because impeachments, they're difficult and they rarely, you get through the House, but then, winning in the Senate, getting a conviction in the Senate's not easy. But, these are war crimes. And I think that one of the first priorities of the next Congress when we get in there is to immediately initiate impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump for war crimes against the people of Iran. I think that honestly, that is the only way that we are ever going to get any peace in this situation, because what he's doing is absolutely heinous. And folks, the thing with the Strait of Hormuz is that they keep saying that the Strait of Hormuz is closed. I mean, that's what the tweet said. The tweet said, open the fucking strait or I'm going to rain hell on you. Well, guess what? The Strait of Hormuz is actually not closed. It's actually open. And this is a map. This is a map of the Strait of Hormuz, and I'm going to play for you the footage. This is like live footage that is, of today, and you can see that the Strait of Hormuz is actually not closed. This is data from today. Now, what you notice on this is that there's a lot of ships there that aren't going anywhere, but you see those ships going in up on the top of your screen? Those are ships that the Iranian government is allowing to pass through. And if you look at the headlines today in the news, you will see that the French had some ships go through, the Japanese had some ships go through, the Chinese have had some ships go through. So the idea that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, like Trump said in his tweet, is just absolutely false. The Strait of Hormuz is not closed. The problem is it's now being controlled by Iran, because this is the leverage. This area that you see here, this is the leverage that Iran has. It's all they have. They do not have air superiority. They don't have military superiority. Our military budget is 100 times theirs, but they have this. And even though this is a 20-mile stretch of navigable waterway, the shipping lane is actually only 2 miles wide, which is why you see some of those ships going in to those limited areas. So, the Strait of Hormuz is not closed. It's not closed. It's restricted. And the reason why it's restricted is because of this war. It's because that's the only leverage that the Iranian government has. Now, look, here's the thing, folks, is that this idea that the Trump administration had no idea that this was going to be an issue is complete and utter nonsense. The Strait of Hormuz and the issue with the Strait of Hormuz has been something that's been wargamed time and time again. They've known about this for a long, long time, that if anything was to happen to Iran, if they were going to get attacked, if they thought they were having an existential threat, they would use this as leverage. And we know this because people have been talking about it. I mean, check this out. I'm going to show you a clip, and this was Newt Gingrich talking about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And it just goes to show you that this issue with the Strait of Hormuz has been known by everybody. It's absolutely not a mystery at all. And this is Newt Gingrich. This isn't some, crazy person that has no, that you can accuse of being some kind of anti-Trump person. So just listen to this. This is what Newt Gingrich was saying about 3 weeks ago.
First is that, and they should have frankly moved on this on day one, they have to keep the Strait of Hormuz open.
Yes.
I don't care what it costs. If they can't keep it open, this war will in fact be an American defeat before very long, because the entire world, including the American people, will react to the price of oil if the strait stays closed very long. So I lived through this with Reagan, as you did, in the late 80s. Keeping the strait open is the #1 job, because it buys you time for the two other jobs. The second job is we're going to discover that the Revolutionary Guard is tougher than we thought it was, better connected, and have at least 200,000 people who are true believers, and they have no future. I mean,
right.
Trump can say unconditional surrender.
Right.
These folks know if they lose power, they have no future. And the third challenge is, how do you arouse and organize the street, the 85 million or so people in Iran who do not want the current regime, but they're unarmed, they're unorganized, and that has to be solved. These three problems are going to decide whether this was a stroke of genius or, frankly, a step into quicksand. And I think that the president has to focus very hard on solving these three issues.
So, folks, that was about 3 weeks ago, and you heard in that clip Newt Gingrich, who has been a big fan of Donald Trump. Okay, you can't accuse him of having Trump derangement syndrome, which is, I know, what people always say. Every time you criticize Donald Trump, they say you got Trump derangement syndrome. Well, Newt Gingrich doesn't have Trump derangement syndrome, and he said that during the Reagan era they were talking about this. So that was 40 years ago. So this is not a mystery. This is not a surprise that we are in this situation. It's not a surprise that the Strait of Hormuz is being restricted. But as I showed you, it is not closed. It is not closed. Now, let's go back for a second, because you hear a lot about the Strait of Hormuz. We don't, for a lot of us, this is a new thing, right? Check out this little video. It's about 3 minutes long, and what it's going to show you is why this is important. And as a congressional candidate, the reason why I'm going to be doing these live streams, and I'm going to try to do them every night between now and the primaries, because I want you folks to know something. That if I'm elected to Congress, I'm going to do my own homework. This homework that I'm doing now, the information I'm providing now, this is stuff that I have been looking into, that I have been researching, because I think it's very important that if someone's going to represent you in Congress, that they understand what they are doing, that they have some kind of idea. So I'm giving you the analysis here to kind of show you, how these things work and the complexities of the situation that we have here, and just so that people can sort of, understand what exactly is going on with the Strait of Hormuz. So check this little video out, and we'll talk about it a little bit on the backside.
If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, what impact will it have on the entire world, and which country will be affected the most? First, let's understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is. It is a small area of just 33 kilometers, located between Iran, Oman, and the UAE. It is a narrow sea passage through which almost 20% of the world's oil supply flows, nearly 17 million barrels every day. This oil comes from 8 countries located in the Persian Gulf, including Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and and the UAE for the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar, 90% of their oil exports pass through this narrow route to reach the rest of the world. If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, following countries will suffer the most damage. First is India, because it imports 85% of its oil, and 60% of that comes from Middle Eastern countries like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE. Fuel prices in India would skyrocket, and as a result, everything related to oil and all industries would face severe disruption. Industries could shut down, there would be job losses, and the economy would be severely affected. The second most affected country would be China. China is the world's largest oil importer, bringing in...
Oh, sorry, folks, I lost it for a second. Let me get back to that real quick. This is live, so obviously every once in a while we're going to have a little hiccup. Okay, let's pick this back up. Okay, there we go. I don't know what happened. Continue.
40% of China's oil imports pass through this Strait of Hormuz. Although China has built oil pipelines with Russia and Central Asia, they don't even fulfill 20% of its energy needs. So, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, China's economy could suffer a massive blow. And if China's economy is shaken, its effects will be felt all over the world. The third most affected country would be Japan, as it imports 90% of its oil, and 75% of that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. The fourth most affected country would be Saudi Arabia. 80 to 90% of Saudi Arabia's oil goes to the rest of the world through Strait of Hormuz, while only 10% goes to Europe via its Red Sea coastline. So if this choke point is blocked, Saudi Arabia's economy will be heavily impacted. Imagine that a country suddenly loses 80 to 90% of its revenue. What would happen to it? Something similar could happen to Saudi Arabia. There's also a high chance that Saudi Arabia might send in its military to reopen the route, and that could make the situation even worse. Fifth is Pakistan, which gets about 90% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. This oil meets around 27% of the country's energy needs. So if the route is blocked, prices in Pakistan could rise sharply. But there's an interesting twist. Since Pakistan shares a border with Iran, and several government reports suggest that 35% of Pakistan's diesel comes unofficially from Iran. So if the strait is blocked, Pakistan might turn to Iran for oil, either quietly or through an official deal. Next in line is the UAE, because as nearly as 72% of its oil exports rely on this Strait of Hormuz, the country does have a backup option, the Habshan-Fujairah pipeline, which allows it to bypass the strait and export up to 60% of its oil. But for a major economy like the UAE, losing the remaining 40% would still be a serious blow. Next comes the European countries like France, Germany and Italy, which on average get 10% of their oil through the Strait of Hormuz. A blockade here would hit them hard as well. Globally, experts warn that oil prices could soar past $150 a barrel, causing widespread inflation and possibly triggering a major global recession. So this small 33-kilometre area holds enough power to shake the entire world.
There you go. And it's the job of the President of the United States, in keeping us safe as a nation, to look through all of those possibilities. And it's also the job of a guy like Troy Downing, who supposedly represents us in the Montana 2nd Congressional District. Does he? Have you seen him say anything about this? The only thing I have seen Troy Downing say about the Iran war is that he thinks it's amazing. And he posted something the other day, being grateful for the pilot being recovered, which obviously we are. But I asked him, why are we even in there, Troy? What are we even doing there? So, you've seen from those two clips that I showed you. I mean, this isn't like some kind of great mystery that the Strait of Hormuz was going to be a focal point. They knew it in the Reagan era. You can see the economics there. That's a 3-minute video. That's common sense. And one of the things that you hear Trump say, and he's just one of the dumbest presidents we've ever had in our nation's history, is he says, well, the United States has plenty of oil and don't worry about it. But you saw in that video, and just common sense tells you, that we get a lot of our goods from China. India trades with China, Europe. I mean, all these places that are dependent upon oil. If the prices go up, that is inflation that hits everybody. All global markets, all nations in the 21st century are interconnected. That's just simply how the world works. And we all know that, everybody knows that, and Trump knows it. But we saw the tweet, right? So let's look at a separate question now. What about taking the Strait of Hormuz? What does that even involve? Because, Trump has all these threats, and he said, the other day, he said, just go and take it. It's easy. Is it easy? No, it's not. I want to play you a clip from Douglas McGregor, a retired lieutenant colonel, a man who I've been following on social media, one of these guys that's a real strategic thinker, and listen to what he says about how easy it is to take the Strait of Hormuz. Check this out.
Seize the straits. What does that mean? If you look at the sides of the strait, in other words, the coastline, you're talking about 1,000 feet of cliff. In other words, this is an uphill climb in the worst sense of the word. Are you then going to land troops further to the east and then make the long march around and take it from the landward side? I mean, what are you doing? If you're going to put them on an island, once they're sitting on the island, what kind of control or influence are they going to assert? And the answer is none.
Oh, sorry, folks.
It'll be covered by rockets and missiles.
Had another glitch real quick. Hold on one second. Like I said, we're live, so occasionally my computer's deciding it just wants to turn things off. I don't really know why. Let's get back to that, though. I think that's an important. So McGregor there is just, he's talking about the cliffs. He's talking about the problems. I'll just go back just a second on that so you can hear. This is important. This is important because our nation is, our fate as a nation is tied into this stuff. So check this out. Let's go back to that and make sure we get all this information here. It's important.
Because the place will be pulverized. It'll be covered by rockets and missiles. Anything on it will be exterminated. I mean, that's the easy thing to do. What else would you do? Now, of course, if you're going to make the argument that the Iranians are running out of missiles, which reminds me of the Russian army running out of missiles and rockets and so forth, then maybe it's fine. Maybe you could go there and open the chaise lounge chair and take in some sun. But the point is, I don't think so. And I don't think that you can stop from 150 kilometers away all sorts of weapons being launched against those sites. And again, we're back to persistent surveillance. What are you going to do that's going to fool anybody? Where are you going to stage forces? Are you going to try and stage them in Kuwait, in Bahrain? Are you going to try and stage out of Oman? I doubt seriously the Omanis will be receptive to that idea. Are you going to try and stage out of the UAE? Anywhere you go or you try to mass forces, it's going to be picked up, it's going to be targeted, and you're going to be brought under effective fire. So the problem with all of this is, do we have these capabilities? Yeah, we got lots of light infantry. Much of it's good. It'll go where you send it. But what are you asking it to do? And I think at the moment, we're asking them to do the impossible, to exert control over geography that they can't control. It's not a question of, are there not enough of them? It's simply a question of surveillance and strike. And if you don't have that advantage, if you can't rob the enemy of ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and you can't defeat his intermediate range or tactical ballistic missiles and so forth, what are you going to do? Perhaps we're going to have to go through this in order to learn this lesson the hard way.
And here's the thing, folks. When we get down to brass tacks, Troy Downing should have been asking these questions before he allowed us to get into this war. And it is, I just want people to remember this, because this election is important, because Troy Downing has put us all in immense jeopardy, and he doesn't care. He doesn't say anything about this. He doesn't take any responsibility for his negligence. He doesn't take any responsibility for what he is doing to us. He doesn't care about us. He doesn't care about us. Now, you can see from what I just showed you that if a regular guy like me can go and do a little research and figure this out, we would expect that everything I showed you would have been common knowledge in the United States military. And, indeed it is. Indeed it is common knowledge. But, so what are we dealing with here in this whole thing? I mean, how is this even happening? Why are we even, allowed to be in this type of situation? How is it that, we have a president and we have an administration that doesn't even think through the most basic details? And this is why, folks, having people in Congress that actually represent you is critical, because Troy Downing should have been on this. Troy Downing should have been asking these questions for you and I. And if we'd had people who actually cared about the Constitution, we might not even be in this war. So you got to make sure, if you ever see Troy Downing, he's responsible for this. He's responsible for all the suffering that we go through. He's responsible for all the problems that we are having right now. Now, I know there's a lot of people on the right, or MAGAs. I don't know if MAGA even is left. Does it exist anymore? We don't know. But people always, like the young Republicans, those are people, they always say, oh, you got Trump derangement syndrome. No, the thing is that Trump is an idiot. He's an idiot. And I mean, just look at how he talks about this stuff.
The loyalty of some allies. Late today, the president marveled at his model of an American B-2 bomber.
And if these gorgeous B-2 bombers, give me that bomber, Andrews. Let me just hug that little sucker. Give me that bomber over there. Thank you. You knew immediately which one. This looks small, but in person it's very big. It's the only plane capable of carrying a 200,000-pound bomb. So I don't know how they do it. It's very sleek and nice, but it carries a lot of weapons and there's a lot of bombs.
He's like a freaking child, isn't he? He's like a little baby playing with toys. I mean, this is real, man. This stuff is life and death. I mean, this is what we're dealing with here. This is what we're dealing with here at the end of the day. That's your president, Montana. Let me get it back on there so you can see that. That's your president right there. That is your president. There he is. That's your president. He's a baby. He's a man-child. I mean, I showed you the analysis. I showed you what people like Lieutenant Douglas McGregor. I've shown you what people like Newt Gingrich say. This is who you have as a president, and this is why we have to have people in Congress that actually give a damn, that actually care about our future. So look, folks, thanks for watching. If you want to get more of this content and you want to know when we're going live, please follow me on Facebook. I'm going to try to have it set up so that I can maybe take questions, and I'm really going to try to do this on a nightly basis right around this time. And my goal is going to be this: is to give you some analysis so that if you're thinking about voting for me and you're thinking about it, I want you to know how I think about things. I want you to know that if I represent you in Congress, I'm going to keep your best interests in mind. And this type of analysis that you're going to see on the live streams for the next 2 months, it's the type of analysis I'm going to bring to Congress. And if you follow me on social media, I like to have fun. I like to throw elbows. I like to put, some controversial stuff on there. But I also want you to know that I am a strategic thinker. I look at data. I look at analysis. I look at experts. That's what your congressperson should be doing. But right now, we don't have any representation in the United States Congress in Montana. You don't have representation. You don't have it. All you have is stupidity and cowardice. And in 2026, Montana deserves better than that. They just deserve people that are actually going to do their homework and give a damn. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave comments. The reel will be on my Facebook page for you to watch. Leave comments, share it, let us know what you think. Reach out to us on social media, and hope you enjoy the rest of your Easter Sunday.